Welcome all of you guys on Zoom. I just wanted to do an announcement for you guys here and those of you on Zoom. So hopefully they can hear me on Zoom. Let me know if they're giving me a thumbs up or anything like that. For those of you, we're good? Okay, perfect. For those of you here tonight, if at any point you need to go to the restroom, feel free. You're just going to go right into the sliding glass doors underneath the deck. You're just going to go right into the left. So feel free to do that anytime you need. If you need some goodies, coffee, refills, water, anything like that, you just just feel free. Can we do a double check, everybody, even all you guys in the back? Just do a double check of your phones. Let's make sure they're off.
We're an absolute phone shaming,
yes.
Don't pull it out kind of deal here.
Yes, we don't do that here.
We will shame you if you pull it out.
And just a reminder to the crew, we just appreciate no vaping, no sneaking of the vapes, nothing like that. We parents appreciate that. And then those of you at home, I do know that tech might be pretty tricky tonight. So those of you, there's quite a few people on Zoom at home. They're used to our bi-weekly solution groups where they get to interact and whatnot. Tonight, I don't know how possible that is. We're a packed house here tonight, so there might be so much participation. So I just wanted to kind of tell people at home ahead of time. We'll try, we'll see how it goes, but I just didn't want to really, disappoint anybody. If anybody has any messages, just shoot me that you want to ask, anything like that, you can shoot me a message. I'll do my best to read it, and that's for those of you at home. So.
Can we get hey Jenna, will you just turn around and tell them to shut up? You can tell them any way you like and don't get offended. Tell them to zip it and get in the room.
Jenna did a good job, I like that.
Yeah,
that was good.
Tell them zip it.
I like her style. That's nice,
yeah.
That's nice. So anyways, this is not a typical solution group, so we don't have the normal beginnings. We're just going to get right to it. I'm going to hand it over and I'll be back here. Take some photos.
We want to welcome here everyone tonight. We still got some chatter. Okay. As we've moved on throughout this tonight, there's people in the audience that have lost. There's people that are in recovery. There's maybe somebody here using. So we have all kinds of walks of addiction and. As you guys know, we've moved at Battlefield to just start bringing our knowledge into this realm of making change. We've kind of been distant from getting in and helping families and staying in our lane, but we've found it's time to get out of that lane, and we no longer could sit by and watch as our loved ones are dying. And as you all know, we're seemingly having a funeral every week at this point, and very consistently. And you'll hear from people in the audience that have lost as recently as, had a funeral as recently as last week, and have up and coming funerals coming up. And we've gotten to a place where we can no longer be quiet and stay in our lane because it's encroached upon every part of our living. We can't seem to go to 7-Eleven anymore or let anyone go to 7-Eleven because somebody's selling it on the street corner, fentanyl. We can't go let anyone walk down to the park because people have it in the park down there. And there's really nowhere anyone can go without being subjected to somebody trying to push it on them or somebody, at least offering it. So tonight we introduced Raul Garcia. I've met him recently and have had lunch with him and have conversations with him. That doesn't mean we're endorsing Raul yet because we can't. That's just not what we're doing. We're not endorsing any political candidates. We're just vetting them and kind of seeing and making sure that if they do get elected, that they're coming and helping us. And so we're kind of going all aspects. We have Andrea Suarez here also in the audience, who is running for a legislative district in Seattle, District 43. You can see, raise your hand, Andrea. So she's running for District 43 state legislator, and this is just what we're doing now, is getting involved and asking questions of the people that maybe can help us make an impact. So we're going to start, and the first thing that we'll probably get into is everyone, Raul Garcia.
Thank you. it's a real honor to be here and to know that this is Art's house. Right? This is where he grew up, which means that this is from the heart. And it's really easy to be in a room with people that are here because of their heart. And I think that it's even easier to be around people that could accept. And I think that if I asked you to raise your hands, how many people in this room would say, I have failed at some point in my life, right? And
Not me. That was I was raising. Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about, but go ahead. You guys raise your hand.
It is so warm to be here with you guys, and it doesn't matter to me what your political alliance is. The fact that you're here means that you're here because you want to see people to bring solutions to a cause that is killing us in our city. I think we could do that together. So I'm very grateful that you have me here, and let's have fun tonight, and let's be interactive. I could sit here and tell you all my ideas, and then you get to criticize that and make them better. Right? But at the end, we need to take drastic measures, because we cannot let this continue to happen the way that it is happening right now in our cities, in this state, and in our country. We're losing a human being every 4 minutes and 45 seconds to fentanyl in our country. So just since Art and I have started talking, a couple of people died. So let's do this together. Thank you for having me here.
You're welcome. I think the first kind of thing I wanted to get into is what prompted you to leave the emergency room. Just so you guys know, he's an ER doctor in Yakima. And what's prompted you to leave the emergency room and get into this realm and see what you could do?
Well, I'm still an ER physician. I haven't left that. As a matter of fact, my last shift I had 4 or 5 overdoses that came on that shift. And I don't think that my want of service is changed. I think the venue will change. Instead of helping one family at a time, I'll help a state and our country. But I believe that I could bring that love of service to, I think, a place that has been lost. A lot of politicians today don't remember that this is about service. I'm going to be your employee, every one of you. And so that want of service is not change my why. Why am I here? Well, I told you one of the reasons. I'm a physician, and the emergency department is a microcosm of society. And we see how society decays or gets lifted. And we are in a decaying world right now. Everything that we see from the emergency department onto our cities. So that's the number one reason. I will get to something very significant for me, which is the American dream, and why that's so significant, and it goes hand in hand with having heart. But the third and most important is that we have been personally affected as well, right? And when we were coming here, my wife said to me, wow, they say you're going to be on the hot seat, right? Does that scare you? And I said, no, especially in a room like this, right? But I am going to put her on the hot seat because she has an even better story than I do when it comes to our personal experience with this issue. And I always call her my 75%. People say, "Oh, this is my other half." No, I think she's my 75%. She really goes above and beyond. So I want Jessica to come forward and tell us about her story with addiction in her family and our son.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay.
Come on, Jessica.
I would have been more prepared had I have known that was going to happen. So I have to tell you, when I walked in the house, I got really emotional. My childhood was just riddled with addiction. And I can't remember your name, but Connie. Speaking to you was like, it was like I got to see my mom again. So I lost my mom to addiction in 2009. It was an overdose suicide. And so of course I've been, traumatized by that. And then in 2019, we almost lost our son to fentanyl. Long story short, I ended up kicking him out of our house. He kind of had me pinned up against a wall, and I was terrified. My other children were home, and Raul was not there. And so I kicked him out of the house, and about 2 weeks later, he showed up. And he dropped to his knees when I answered that door, and he just said, "Mom, if you don't help me, I'm going to be dead in a week." And so this subject is really, really close to my heart, and something has to be done. I was never into politics, so I don't ever want you guys to look at me and think, she's here because of politics, because I'm not. And quite honestly, I grew up on the other side of the aisle from Raul. We come from very different places, but something has to be done, and so that's why we're here. Thank you for having us. That's my quick.
Well, the last piece of the why that I said that I would explain was the American dream, right? It is hard to explain to all of you what it is to be born in a place that you don't have freedom. I was born in Cuba, and for 11 years of my life, I lived a double life. Those things that you could say at school and those things that you knew the reality at home. And when I was 8 years old, I got my roller skates and put them in a box and put a handle on it. I went to the local store and told everybody that I would take their groceries home for 10 cents a block. Right? And I came home with $5 and 5 cents. I don't know how the 10 cent in there, don't do the math. I lost 5 cents somewhere. But I came home and I came screaming, "I'm living the American dream." Right? And my mom promptly slapped me and told me to shut up or she would go to jail. Right? My grandparents had a tobacco plantation, and that was taken away from them because the government knew best. And a dairy farm, and that was taken away. And my mother's license to practice teaching and nursing was taken away because she wouldn't sign to be a part of the Communist Party. When I left Cuba at 11 years of age, they sat me in a room at the airport with a policeman. And he said to me, "Comrade, you don't need to leave. You could let your mother leave alone. And we will throw you a big party at the Pioneer Palace here in Havana." And I said, "No, I'm going. I'm going with my mom." And the truth of the matter is that I was full of joy and full of heart and full of love for a country that I had never stepped foot on. To get here and be a part of that American dream that people talked about. Right? And lucky enough to be able to get here and with grit and dedication become a doctor and become a medical leader in my profession and run national boards and professional organizations and even to run my own business right? This little boy from a farm in Cuba to be able to get here. And for me, that's everything. And to be able to let my children have that same opportunity, and for me to repay this country for everything it's done for me, it's everything. So when I'm sitting in a room full of heart, I'm going to get emotional, because you could see why I say, no, we have to fix this, because this is not the American dream. We're losing great people. That could have been what? That could have been what? And it is something that we can do something about together. So that's my why.
Thank you. So you come into this, you decide that, you know, fentanyl's a problem and it needs to be dealt with, and then you kind of form the Americans Against Fentanyl and Meth Act. Is that how it went? And then could you tell us what that is? And
So I have promised that as your next United States Senator, that I will push to pass the Americans Against Fentanyl Act. And we've talked about including meth in there, where we take drastic measures and give manslaughter charges to dealers and give involuntary mandatory rehab to addicts. And that rehabilitation needs to include mental health and counseling and relationships with housing and businesses and tech colleges and universities to take these graduates out of there. But when they come back home into the community, they cannot see those dealers there anymore. Those dealers need to go to prison. They need to be out of the system, and we need to end that supply in our streets. Is there more answers? Do we need to be stricter at our border so we could vet the people that come in and out, so drugs and crime do not freely flow? Absolutely. But I want to have an answer for our streets, for our communities, to clean us of this problem. And it has to be drastic. So as we work on it, I am sure that it will get more comprehensive, right? Because we have to certainly think about our jails and how are we going to have rehabilitation in our jails, and do we give incentives for people to go to rehab in jail and get well. There are other ideas that I'm sure that this room could be full of, that we could include in the Americans Against Fentanyl Act. But it is just something that is drastic and says no more. We are not going to lose 300 people a day anymore. We have to have a solution, because the cost, never mind financially, but the cost of what I said, what these people could have been to society, is not there. So that is what the idea is. That is what I am going to push. And I am sure that I will get the majority of the Senate to support this, because everyone is hurt by this. It doesn't matter what party, it doesn't matter what social background you have, it doesn't matter your ideology. We are losing our neighbors, and we're losing our own children and cousins and family members.
so, what are you aware of the current work that's being done in the FEND Act and all that is, you know, just been recently passed, and talking about, what do you know about that, or how does that relate to the work that you're thinking of do? Are you thinking they're doing good things right now with what, you know, what is it, Davis or passing recently?
So I think education is a key component, right? And I think that the things that have been passed lately to be preemptive in educating our children about drugs is something that should go on. I will always say that education is key. I am never going to be on the side of of a government telling us what to do, but educating us and giving us the resources so we as human beings could make our own decisions, right? So there are programs now that I think meant well, but are not in action accomplishing what we want at the end, such as harm reduction. I think harm reduction is a good idea, right? We want our streets to be safe, but it is not bringing out a solution to eliminate the problem. As a matter of fact, it's in some ways, it is enabling the problem to become bigger, right?
Yeah, you're not going to find much effort behind here for us in harm reduction in this room.
Yeah. And that goes for housing first as well.
Yeah.
You know, if you have mental health and you're giving someone a house with mental health issues, they're probably going to leave it.
Or destroy it.
Or destroy it.
Yeah.
Or do drugs.
Yeah.
And if you have drug addiction, now you have a problem that all the neighbors share, where it wasn't there before. So I think that intent has to be coupled with, according to results, what will resolve the issue. And this is what I think that I can bring from medicine to politics, a scientific mind. There's a lot of things and a lot of topics in politics that have visceral responses. But if you stick to the science, well, has this worked? Where has it worked? And when I talked about the Americans Against Fentanyl Act, in 2001, some of you may know, the country of Portugal had a big opioid epidemic. It was heroin that was affecting the country. And the government came in and said, we need drastic measures. We need to put dealers in prison, and we need to make addiction a medical emergency. Right? So yes, they decriminalized it and they made it a medical problem instead of a criminal problem. But they had people found with drugs had no option but to go to rehab. So that is the thing that we're missing today, the teeth behind drug court, where you have to get through this program. And there's a lot of good people out there, as we know here, as we sit, that want us to triumph at the end. I mean, we're all here because we want to triumph. We know that it's possible, right? If not, we wouldn't be here.
So let me play. Now let's turn it to the hot seat.
Okay.
Let's make it something about. Let me say something, and then you can respond to it. And idea, no idea. But here's the deal. You answer this question for me. There was heroin here. Most of the people here started with heroin. A lot of the people started with heroin. There was heroin here on our streets. So many of us, I was a heroin addict. Many of us were using heroin. Heroin was here. Now it's not. Fentanyl wasn't here. Now it's here. Why is fentanyl here? Why is it here in this time? And why did and when I talked about the acts that I see in the Senate right now, what I'm talking about is sanctions against China. I'm talking about, like, if I say the statement, this room, and I say, hey, listen, if 10,000 pounds of fentanyl comes to the United States, 10,000 pounds of fentanyl will get done. And to mess with it on the demand side, to me, is a mistake. Because when we mess with it on the demand side, and we try to stop the demand, what ends up happening is the people in this room get hurt in some way. When you say dealers, are we talking, this is Are we talking like cartel dealers? Are we talking about this guy who just sold 100 pills to keep his habit going? And so when I say, how come it's here? We weren't calling it out for it. There wasn't a demand prior. This is a case for the first time in history I'm seeing as being addiction for 14, 15, being involved in addiction for 17 years and then sober for 14 years. This is the first time that I've ever seen that supply absolutely created the demand. That they said, see, we didn't want Facebook. Nobody said, I need Facebook. I'm calling for Facebook. You see, they brought the supply of Facebook and now we're all addicted to Facebook. They brought the supply of Instagram and now we're all addicted to Instagram. They brought TikTok and now they brought fentanyl and everyone's addicted to fentanyl. So my saying is, if we don't stop it from coming here, people are going to get hurt. And to attack it anywhere other than that, so I will let you respond.
Oh, absolutely. So I want to be very clear and 100%. I think the demand needs help. It doesn't need criminal punishment. I think the supply is the one that needs criminal punishment.
Yeah.
And it comes all the way, and it comes all the way from where it is made. And if we have to have sanctions against certain countries that are purposely making this to infiltrate America, then we will. We have to, right? We have to save our people, right? And we have to have more discipline and leadership at our border to not let these things happen. And the key thing to fentanyl, and we all know this, but I want to say it, you don't have a pharmacist calibrating how many micrograms of fentanyl you're putting per tab, right? Those tablets could have 2 milligrams and kill you immediately, and they come to our ER dead. Children that by mistake are taking it. So yes, complete and utter punishment on the supply. But we do need to take care of the demand, because these are the addicts that are the victims. We need to help those.
So as a Republican running against, we do have to talk about the semantics of this, of a Republican. Although the first question I want to ask is that why do the Republican Party, or why does any party decide who to support and who to back, and how come, and maybe it's not true, but how come you're not being backed the way that somebody else might be backed, like a Reichert or something? Or why are they back? Why are they not why do they write you off and say, we're not going to put any money into Raul's campaign?
Well, no, I don't think that they're writing me off. I think that they're judging how good of a candidate am I going to be. Right, every candidate comes out, and let's say that you're sitting in Washington, D.C., and you have 10 U.S. Senate candidates from different states, and you have to decide which one you're going to put your money behind. So you want those candidates to prove to you that they're worthy and that they have a worthy cause. So no, I don't think that the NRC has written me off at all. They're in communication with us, and they very much said, we think you have a great chance of winning, and we will support you. Now, it would be really great if in the August primary, Dr. Raul Garcia comes out first and at the ballot, right? That would certainly help us a great deal. But you were going to ask about a Republican issue. Was that it?
No, the next thing I was going to ask is, and this is kind of for me where the rubber meets the road. I know what you would want to do if you were elected, and my question is, what do you do if you don't?
Yeah.
What do you do if you're not elected?
Well, I have a why, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to stop until that why gets a solution, right? And whether as a physician or as a leader in my community, or hopefully as your next United States Senator, right? There are certain things that you don't forget, like this room. I want you to think about this. I will think about this room in Washington, D.C. Why? Because it's real. I don't know how many of you are Democrats or Republicans, nor do I care. What I care about is that you came here to work on a solution to something that's affecting us. So I'm not going to stop, regardless. And I don't think my wife will either. And she never wanted to be a part of politics, by the way. We have jumped in with both feet, right? And are swimming hard to shore to find that promised land, right? So yeah, no stopping this message, and I think that everybody in this room feels the same.
So I think before we'll get into open it up for questions and let you guys add them. I mean, I do want you to know. I want you to know that this group of people, these people sitting here, they didn't really come here tonight. They're here every night. We're here. We're here in the heart of the matter. These kids sitting in the back, they know more than anybody that is working on this issue. Every kid back there knows more about fentanyl than everyone sitting in Washington. Every kid back here knows how to hustle it, knows where it's at, knows how to get it, knows how to die from it, knows how to live from it, knows how to try to live from it, knows their friend. Every kid back there's got 25 friends that have died. And every parent in this room, we are in the eye of the storm here. This is it right here. If you want to find the central location of where the shit goes down, come right here for a day. We do it all day, every day. And I love when they go, Overdose Awareness Day, we're going to come out and do some shit. You know when Overdose Awareness comes, that day comes? We don't do shit. We do what we do every day in this room. And I see people coming out for Overdose Awareness Day like they're doing something. It's like people coming out on Christmas and feeding the homeless. What the hell did they do the rest of the year? You know, so here it is. We're talking about people that have lost. We're talking about funerals. We're talking about, right here, the people that are affected. And for us, you're here, and what I want you to do is I want you to, be here to say, I ain't going nowhere if I'm not elected. There's still a fight, and we're going to use the platform, and we're going to use our power and the connections that we made, and we're going to get it done outside of the Senate. And by the way, I don't believe you can get nothing done there anyways. I'm not buying it. I don't know the last time anybody elected to government to solve the problem. I don't remember it. But you tell me one that's been solved, I don't know. But for us, we need leadership, and we need you around, and we need to say, no, you build your platform, you don't get elected, will you come back right here, and then you can help us. Because that's what we need, and the type of people that are really willing to buy into this. So before, we're going to open up and let you guys ask, but this is the heart of the storm right here. This isn't just my childhood neighborhood. This is where we get it done. This is where we save lives, and this is where we lose lives, right here. And each one of these parents, I got parents that I'm looking at right now that are going to tell you their story a little bit. And we got David Barrington sitting here. We just went to his son's funeral 2 days ago, and him and Stacy are here, his mother. And we were at the funeral Saturday. And this kid, Jordan, was like a son to me. And we've got Becky Smart, who's Tyler John's mother, and we'll be going to his funeral coming up a week from now or so. And there's Kat, and Kat lost her son, and so let's open it up. And this is an issue that, if there's any issue that we can cut through party lines, this has to be it. This has to be it. I couldn't figure out how they were going to turn COVID into an ideology, but they figured that out. And I'm wondering how they're going to figure out how to turn this one into an issue that the Democrats and Republicans can fight over. One of the things they can do is they can start shaming people for calling someone an addict. I bet that's the way that they could do it. By the way, we call each other addicts here all the time. We don't have substance use disorders. I've never raised my hand in a meeting and said, I'm Art, I have a substance use disorder. I don't have any disorder. I'm a straight drug addict. And I don't know who came up with the idea of taking my title away and saying not to call me an addict. You know, it's very offensive. Somebody came up and goes, no. So they said it to Angie. She went to a mixer of all these treatment centers. And Angie goes, yeah, we help addicts. And the girl goes, no, we don't say that around here. Well, we say it here. That's all we say. Substance use disorder. What are you, better than me? Who do you think you are? So we don't have that here.
Well, Art said probably the most significant thing to remember why I'm here. Art said, I don't remember the last time that a politician ever resolved anything. Right?
Yeah. So I'm hoping you don't get elected so you can help me solve something.
So but it's up to us to not let them politicize this, whoever they are, one side or the other. Doesn't matter. It's about solutions. Look, and I have no blinders on. I know that I am sitting here working hard to be a part of the 100 most exclusive, narcissistic people in the world. Right? You know. But you know what the difference?
Seems like you got better at the stock market too. So for some reason, you'll get some stock market tips.
But
At least I will.
yeah, that's right.
But let's bring it down to this, right? So yeah, no, please ask me any question. This is my favorite part, and I told my wife this is my favorite part of running for office. I haven't learned any answers. I tell you how I feel. And actually during COVID, I pissed off a lot of people because I said what it was scientifically, and I stuck with science. And some days I would piss off one side, and some days I would piss off the other. But what I'm mostly proud of is that some of the radio personalities around Seattle said Dr. Garcia was the only person that never had to retract anything he said. This was what it was. And I think that that's a scientific side that I want to bring to a solutions-based government. And maybe we could start it, and the next time I'm sitting here as your senator, Art will say, you know what, there are politicians that bring about solutions.
Right. I have a message from Zoom. Question says, this is from Yvette Wilson. She says, if you are successful in mandating treatment, how will you address the lack of available beds for treatment and cover the cost?
Yeah.
You just print money here, it's fine.
Well, here is one thing that I feel really strongly about is that we are not an efficient government. Right, so I think we have a lot of inefficient programs out there that are spending our money. And those inefficient programs have to be cut to bring about efficient programs, especially ones that save lives. Right? So yes, this is going to cost money, but we already have the money. How many hundreds of thousands of dollars are we spending in our streets in Seattle right now per person that's out there?
How many billions have we spent on other wars that we could have spent on our own country? We really want to talk about money.
So the money is there to be useful to save lives in America for our citizens that are dying every 4 minutes and 45 seconds. And I'm going to do everything with every ounce of me to get that appropriated, to make sure that we have enough treatment facilities that include mental health and, as I said, counseling and relationships with businesses and housing, and get these individuals out of that circle. Because everybody that has succeeded, that has come to me at the very least, has said, you know, I was grateful that they took me out of that circle when I couldn't make a decision for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Can you add to that? Remember the numbers of the Portuguese treatment facility per addict?
Yeah, so
That number?
in Portugal, they have 11 million people, and they did it with 67 addiction programs.
And we have here in Washington.
And we have 8 million. And
In the country.
we have 8 million people living in Washington.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And we have about 650 treatment programs in the state. Okay. We have about 100 that are fully inpatient that could be converted really easily. So, you know, we have to work on those 650 becoming the other 100 we need to make sure that we could get those. And we really have to think about this, right? And I want you to now get into the sit at the table with me and think about this, especially all those in the back that know the ins and outs of it, right? A judge came over to me that goes to drug court and said, 6 months is too long. 6 months is too long to keep a person away from their family.
Nope. We've been on the street for a year away from their family.
Right, so he's thinking about the person that has a family that is addicted, that still has a job, and I said, you know what, Judge, that's fine. I mean, people that have that kind of situation, maybe they do well with 3 months inpatient and 3 months outpatient, but the people that have nothing out there, the experts in addiction tell me 6 months to a year. Right? Because you have to rebuild this whole structure.
Teaching skill.
I think that,
Right.
I think that it's an idea that people don't discuss, and before we just talk about, I mean, I've worked for expensive treatment centers. I've worked for the most expensive treatment centers in this country, Aloe House out of Malibu and Oro House now, and when we're coming up with these solutions, even being a treatment provider, you know, if we're hearing that people want to mandate treatment or people want to do things in treatment, you need to also understand, though, that we need to talk about cost to treat. You need to understand it on this side, too. So when people are all saying, we're just going to do all this treatment, we're going to mandate treatment, and they don't speak about cost to treat, they're just as crazy as the people that are doing housing first. Because there is a cost to treat, and guess what? It doesn't work. So guess what? We also need to talk about that. On the side of treatment, it doesn't work. By me saying it doesn't work, that means it doesn't work eventually. It means it works eventually, but it doesn't work. It works only when a person can go sometimes it's a revolving door that they can go in and out of, that they can kind of, you know, fall back and get caught and be able to come back and that kind of thing. And so this complicated solution of saying this needs to be on both sides. That if I'm going to take my solution and say that it's different than their solution, then my solution must have to do with cost, and I must be able to present that cost. And those 600 treatment centers, I don't know where they are in Washington State, but a lot of them, the cost to treat is too high. And so when we talk about treatment, we need to talk about hybrid treatment. We need to talk about what it would cost to keep a human being. Just because somebody stays in treatment for an entire year, that don't mean nothing. I know people over and over that get out of treatment with a year clean and get high on the first day. And I can keep anyone sober by 24-hour supervision. Believe me, we can do that. So 24 hours, you know, but it becomes this continuum of care that we have that we need to work on, and that becomes actually, I mean, this problem that we're talking about is real deal, like as big as they come. So, you know, I can get, you know, we were talking about, kids at the program today, we're talking about, do we get righteous or do we get angry, and do we put them on the hot, and I think that's the problem. I think that people's ideas need to be carried out with character that's going to take a lot, and it's not, it's so multifaceted that yes, it needs to be on the treatment side, yes, it needs to be handled on the supply side, but what does that look like? You know, and are we just going to now let, you know, for instance, in Washington State, the reimbursement rate for inpatient treatment is $300 a day. there's a problem. Ain't no capitalist gonna ever come in for 300, treat someone for 9,000 a month. You can't, you might have trouble getting your dog boarded for that price. So we hear that my program is cheaper than that. And believe me, what the corners we have to cut to make it affordable for families is outrageous. Everyone thinks, oh, ours program is this cost. We cost $7,000 or $5,000 to come here. Listen, it don't pay. It don't work. It needs to be more than that. And so, really hybrid treatment and where we're really looking at cost to treat before we mandate, and really build the infrastructure before we mandate. So that when we do mandate treatment, we got something that is a net. Something that, I talk to Andrea all the time, she does outreach. I don't dig it. I don't dig and go and try to grab a drug addict off the street and beg them to help them. See, we need the whole structure there. We need the mandated treatment. We need the leverage. Now we need an inefficient cost to treat. Or an efficient cost to treat and a lower cost to treat in a hybrid manner that we can actually keep somebody from a year through their ups and downs, through their relapses, through everything that they go through. And then, and that's a big comprehensive deal. So that's my bid for.
And then also you have the graduate houses where after a year where they're working on their life, they're still coming to meetings.
Yes.
It's like it's so multifaceted, like you said.
Yeah.
Well, the mental health aspect of this, it is so superbly important. I had someone in Eastern Washington say to me, well, addiction is a choice. I said, okay, let's do a little test. How many cups of coffee did you have this morning? And he said 3. And I said, well, I'll venture to say as a physician, I can tell you that you don't need coffee to wake up in the morning at all, right? It's your brain telling you, hey, that cup of coffee will be great, right? To wake up. It's the same little dopamine, right? As if you told a child you're going to Disney World, right? It pings, and it's that euphoria that you're looking for. So to reverse that mentally, to believe yourself that you do not need anything else but yourself to be happy in life and be successful and go forward. It takes a lot of mental health day in and day out, right? And that is what we need to include. We need to think of all the aspects of this giant thing we're creating, because it's a giant problem that we cannot let go of. We need to eliminate it, and we cannot put Band-Aids anymore.
I think the mistake that people make, and again, the mistake that people make is, yes, addiction isn't a choice, but it needs to be treated like one. Meaning it needs to be held responsible and held accountable. I'm sorry that you have this thing that causes you to go steal and it causes you to make bad decisions. I'm sorry you have that, but we need to actually hold you accountable for that. And I think that's where Seattle has, really went off track. That it seems as if someone is able to, if somebody steals a bike and they're completely sober, they're going to go to jail. But if somebody steals a bike and they're on heroin, we let them off the hook. And it just seems that we've not treated people as humans. So these kids back in I can't say it's not your fault. I can't say, you didn't do it. It's like, you did this. And it's the only way to treat it. Because if you we don't treat it that way, it is, there needs to be accountability on this person. There needs to be, structure around the person, and it needs to be, enforced. And so that's the problem is if we can take away blame, we can take away fault, but it has to be treated with responsibility. So the common theme of every single person that I've ever seen get sober is that they've come into this thing with no responsibilities. And then they leave responsible for all their actions and all their decisions. So an increased level of responsibility is what is the common theme between everyone that's in recovery. I wasn't responsible, now I am. And so, the people that think it's not it's a choice, well, they seem to treat it a little better than, they seem to know what to do better than people that are going and buying meth pipes and needles and foil and saying, you're not making a choice. You see? So,
Well, but how
You
many?
don't have to buy it, they just get it handed out by your tax dollars.
Yes.
Needle exchange.
yeah, okay, we got questions.
And how many people come back and say the best thing that happened is that I went to jail,
That's absolutely right.
100%.
That's absolutely right.
right?
100%.
Yeah.
So
I
yes,
Not
of course,
arrest, it's
accountability.
rescue.
Okay, a lot of questions. We'll start with Yvette.
You know, I have to say, as a mom who has made several trips to the emergency room with her son on several occasions, as an emergency room doctor, when Art asked you whether you win the election or not, what will you do? You know, I would propose or say there's a lot as an emergency room doctor, whether you win an election or not. I can't tell you how many times, you know, it's overdose is over, here's a piece of paper, make some calls, on your way. Or ridicule not only making that patient feel like shit, but the parent standing there as well. There's a lot of things. As an emergency room physician, I think there's a lot of training and education and stuff in that medical field that I would challenge, whether, you know, things like that as an emergency room doctor, and I'm, you know, things that there can be done, that sometimes those are some of the things that taint that mind of that person that just went through an overdose, that automatically taints that mind of, yep, ain't gonna, right? And just handed a piece of paper, no social worker, no counselor, nobody talks to them. They're just told to head out the door, right?
Before Raul answers this, I want to challenge you, Yvette.
Go for it.
Because I think that this can be part of the You think if an emergency room doctor talked to Parker a certain way, he was going to go do something about it, or you think Parker was leaving to get high no matter what?
Oh God, he was high to get.
So let's not. Then this is where I get into anyone treating addicts like baby birds. Because,
I'm not
you know,
saying
I'd
baby
rather,
birds.
for me personally, I'm just telling you, for me personally, I'd rather you ridicule him. If I'm going to take one or the other, I'm taking he's ridiculing them than being compassionate the way they're being
But, and
compassionate.
I'm not necessarily compassionate, but we don't give enough information, or to hand somebody a piece of paper and say, which half the time that piece of paper has such old phone numbers that don't even exist anymore, right? Versus somebody coming in and saying, do you want treatment? I can make some calls. And they don't walk out the door and go for that next hit.
Yeah, well,
They have the option. They have the option.
I understand, but that's part, and I'll let Raul answer this,
But I mean, and educating and training of staff. I can tell you as a mom.
that's as a mom. You
As a
can't
mom
tell me
as
as a
well.
fentanyl addict, and that's the problem. You're thinking as a mother right now and what you'd want for your son, but you're not thinking of a fentanyl addict. And that's where we go off track down here. You know, down in Seattle right now, what they're doing, they got a great idea. They're going to have firemen hand out Suboxone after an overdose. Number one, no drug addict gives a shit about Suboxone after they just got done overdosing. And number two, if you do give that to a drug addict, that doesn't mean they're gonna go do anything. They're still going to get high.
Yeah.
So the idea is, it comes from people and this culture of people that enable addiction by having this compassion. Like, that's the deal. Hey, I'd rather he came in and go, dude, listen, man, I don't want to see you here no more. What are you gonna do about your life? And
I
then
agree with that.
And then
I agree with that.
Parker says to him, F off, I'm going to get high. And that's the way it works, you know? And I'll let you answer, I'm sorry, but
No, that's fine.
But I'm saying this is where we get, this is,
But then discharge information for those that may. I can tell you with Parker, after some of those is been okay, and we all know, 20 treatment centers, countless. I mean, You know as well as I do.
I know.
On that
I
child
know.
of mine. But, and you, as you know, you strike when the iron's hot, right? Of handing a piece of paper and shoving out the
But
door
that-
is not,
right?
right?
Let's just hear his answer.
I gotta listen a little bit because I gotta hit this up because it's important. No, and I gotta smash this because that's where we treat drug addicts like baby birds. This dude just got done ODing, robbing people out in the streets, running shit, hustling. He's smarter than you. So the kid that he's talking to, guess what? The kid that OD'd is smarter than Raul when it comes to this. So for Raul to have to treat him like a baby bird and go, oh man, do you need a piece of paper? The drug addict gonna grab the piece of paper and go wipe his ass with it and say, fuck off. Yeah. That's it.
Yes.
Listen, and then maybe you're gonna get one. Maybe you're gonna get 2 out of thousands, and he's gonna waste training and time and money. When we need addicts to say when they need help. I'm sorry, it's on you. That's what I meant by treating it with responsibility. That ain't no baby bird. When that dude's ready for help, that dude's gonna get help. And that's the whole misconceptions. And we need to run down to Seattle and do outreach because there's a bunch of people down there waiting to be loved and no one loves them. And only if, but their families are sitting here. Their families are sitting here coming to Solution Group. I don't know what to do. I brought the dude home. I give him all these options and he bones out to go do dope. That's it. And so there's a little bit of in me that goes, stop these programs where we're treating addicts like they're not responsible for their own life. Yes, it's not a choice. Fine.
Well,
I'm not saying treat like a baby bird. I would love for anybody to talk to him like he's a piece of shit.
I did. That's why he's so
But what I'm saying is for a physician to come and talk to him like he's a piece of shit and say, all right, asshole, do you want treatment or not? I can get you the help
That's
you
right.
want.
That's right.
But that's not what happened.
That's all. I get you.
And I would have no problem with
Okay.
that. But I'm not saying treat like you treat Parker like a baby bird. He is the narcissist that will run you over.
Yeah, I got you.
And so that's not the part that I'm saying.
And I think also, okay, go ahead.
I can argue all night long.
Yeah.
We've got our own show.
well, one of the things that you bring up that is actually very important is that we don't have enough resources in certain hospitals in this state.
Even in
We
our
don't-
cities.
We don't have the resources of even a social worker to come talk to our patients, right? So this is also a problem that we need to look at, especially in the rural areas in Eastern Washington. We don't have all the resources necessary to make this happen. So I listen to your point, and it's well taken. And yes, as I said, education is always something that I'm going to say yes to, no matter what it is. Education is paramount, right? Educating everybody about everything. Knowledge is power. I do really believe in that. So educating our physicians and educating our staff, re-educating it as this crisis has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger is certainly paramount. But the amount of resources that we need in certain hospitals need to increase. And of course, the community resources need to increase because sometimes 90%, sometimes 99% of the overdoses that come in want nothing to do with rehab.
That's right.
Want nothing to do with a helping hand.
So I gotta stop again because and we sit here, this idea that we don't have enough resources. I want you to know, Andrea calls me. She's got a couple just yesterday. She's got a couple on the streets of Seattle. A girl is happened to be live on TV. She's saying on TV, I want detox. Andrea grabs her and says, I'll take you to detox right now. She then drives this girl to Oak Harbor. Her boyfriend is in jail. Her boyfriend's supposedly going to be in jail for a while. So here's the resource. Andrea gets her into detox. She does 5 days in detox, buys her a new phone, gets her some clothes, drives gas money, everything that it takes, pick up boyfriend out of jail, bring him here as he waits for her, all free of cost. They're not charged anything, totally free resource. They then come in today, lay down, take a little nap, eat some food, get a shower, and head back out to the streets.
Yep.
And we're running around in Seattle talking about resources. Listen, my treatment center doesn't get many. It's not that easy. The resources are here. And every addict on the street knows when they raise their hand for help, they can get help. Now, families, they need resources. Families need resources. Families need help, and families. When we talk about this stigma being released, when we want the stigma off addiction, I want it off families. Absolutely.
I've been treated like absolute shit.
Yeah, I
by
want it off
medical
families.
staff.
Yeah.
I mean, more than once
Yeah.
in an emergency.
I
room,
want it
I've
off
been yelled
families.
at, and why would you? I mean, and
So-
that all of that goes around education and treatment.
So
And
I just want to help you with, I want you elected. I want to help you with this side of it. And to me, when I hear people running that we don't got enough resources here, I challenge you right now. I'll go get a 14-passenger van today. I will drive down to Seattle, and I won't be able to get no one in it. And I'll give you 100% guarantee it. If I get one person in that van to come to treatment, I'll give you $1,000. And that's how much I know what's going on down there. Why won't they come to treatment? It's not about resources. It's about free-flowing drugs all day. It's about my ability to have no responsibility and get to go steal whatever I want. It's about freedom of, I can go just do whatever I want, commit every crime. Why would I go to treatment? Everyone here that was on the streets, you came when you were ready, correct?
And they won't arrest you either.
Yeah, you didn't come because you knew where the resource was, but you stayed out there for 2 years, right? Yep. And that's the deal. So I want to help smash that myth. There is a stigma on families, though. There's a lot of blame on the families, and I don't believe in that. I think the families have done great jobs, and the families I know have done tremendous jobs, and I think that their kids have been affected by a supply of drugs that they should have never had to encounter. And now they're screwed. Now they're in a bee's nest, and they don't know how to get out. And so I do want this. But yet, here they are in the addiction world saying all addiction's caused by trauma. No, you know what addiction's caused by? Drugs. I've been treating drug addiction for 14 years, and there's only one thing in common with everyone I treated. They do drugs. Drug addiction is caused by drugs. I've never seen one drug addict in the history of the world that hasn't done drugs. But I've seen tons that weren't,
There's a lot of traumatized people that don't do drugs.
There's a lot of traumatized people that don't do drugs. And most of you families sitting in this room have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 kids that got the exact same childhood of your kid that now is involved in addiction. And you all know it. You didn't do anything different. And here you go. So I gotta, again, back to the questions for Raul. I'm sorry. This is. We're in the zone here.
Angela back here, Becky wants to say something.
Okay, we'll go Angie, Pam, Angela, Becky.
And then Beth is fine.
Pam?
In regard to the treatment centers and, not being able to get adequate care and it costing too much and stuff, I was looking at online and McNeil Island has been vacant since 2011. But there are still people there overseeing McNeil Island. I don't know what it would take, but it seems like a viable option. There wouldn't be any excuse. These kids would be pulled off the streets and they would go there.
So it's not completely
It's
empty.
not vacant.
Okay, it's not completely vacant. There's still some criminals in there, but this idea has been floated a lot, and it has a lot of merit because there are medical healthcare personnel already there, right? So it will be easy to transform into a treatment center in a place that is away from everything.
Right.
So certainly I would support it if it came to be something that I have a say on for the state. I think it'll be more of a state issue than a federal, but it's certainly something that I will support. That's another thing. Just because I am running to be your United States Senator doesn't mean that I can't sit here and defend state issues. I represent you, right? The United States Senator of this state is the highest elected office of this state. And for me to sit here and not have an opinion on things that happen in Washington I think is baloney. Of course you have an opinion and you become a leader and you talk about it and you push solutions to those issues that are happening in Washington. Even if you are the U.S. Senator from Washington, because you are the U.S. Senator from Washington, right? Yeah.
All right, we'll go back here. Angela?
Then Becky and Beth.
So I believe in good models, and you brought up a good model in Portugal. I'd like to hear more about that, but I'd also like to say, if we have this wound in the U.S. and this, and we are all involved in it right here and right now, I think that means we're being called to be part of the solution right now. And so what are those important things that make up a good model right here and right now? And most people in this room have been through many sorts of rehabs with their children. But there's something unique about this model. And some of it's been brought up. It's the family involvement. It's also the incredible community that's formed. Do you hear the people laughing here? Do you hear the sense of belonging, no matter what? I think that it's time for a new model that involves a lot of what happens here at Battlefield Addiction. But I think we need to start speaking out as moms. We actually need to have, as families, as physicians, and we need to create that full model. But we, yeah.
Oh, I think it's great. I couldn't agree more. I mean, this is, Art said this is ground zero, because you have a lot of what's powerful about a solution right here in this room, right here. You don't have to go any further.
Thank you.
I had a question about the drug trafficking and the gang.
Let's get on to that, Dave. Let me get that after we go to Becky.
Becky Smart right here. Oh, sorry.
Can I come up front here?
Yes, come on, Becky.
I don't like my back to anyone.
Especially these guys, you never know.
I know, you never know. You never know what you're going to come across. And I'm kind of a planner. So I wrote something out. Hello, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Garcia, for attending tonight's platform for Battlefield Addiction. And a special thanks to Art and Angie for making this possible and giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. Dr. Garcia, I read briefly your views and the actions you want to take regarding the fentanyl crisis we are experiencing in this country, and I applaud you for taking this crisis seriously. My name is Becky Smart, and I recently experienced the loss of someone that was very near and dear to me. I want to share with you the heartache experienced with this, and in return, I hope you will never forget and never stop your passion to fight this crisis after listening to my story. I'm going to read to you what was written in my son's pamphlet at his memorial service that was on May 4th. Celebrating the life of Tyler John Huntsman, November 19th, 1993 to February 27th, 2024. Tyler John Huntsman, affectionately known as T-Man, was born in Seattle on November 19th, 1993, to his proud parents, Jesse and Becky, and his loving brother, AJ Mount. Our beloved Tyler wore his heart on his sleeve and was always wanting to help those in need. Many family friends and members referred to Tyler as an old soul. He had the ability to talk and relate to many at a deep level and understanding. Tyler was raised in Des Moines and enjoyed his days going to school, playing baseball, and playing with his friends. After graduating from high school, Tyler found his true joy being a man of the sea, working on a tender boat in southeast Alaska for 5 years, and teaching his loved ones, Michelle, Brooklyn, and Andrew, how to fish that brought him so much joy. Tyler became an accomplished diesel mechanic and was so proud of all of his beautiful tools that he took great care of. We will all miss his laugh, his smile, and his hugs. Tyler would love for you to leave today's event smiling and feeling immense love for all of those around you. A few more things about Tyler for you to remember. Tyler loved Christmas and his hallmark Christmas ornaments. He loved helping his mom every year decorating the tree and making sure each ornament was returned to its original box until the next year. Tyler loved to cook. His love of cooking started very young when he asked for an easy bake oven one year for Christmas, and yes, seriously, he did. Tyler loved his ability to have bonsai plants and took great pride in his care for them. But his ultimate love in life was his family and friends. And one of Tyler's ornaments were given out to all of our family members, that they could all have one with him, and to our very close friends in remembrance of Tyler every year at Christmas. And as I was preparing for tonight, I thought, how can I truly make an impact with Dr. Garcia? So I was going through the box of ornaments that were left. Some I will never part with. But ironically, I found this one. It's Uncle Sam Nutcracker. How patriotic. And so, this is very near and dear to me, but I'm going to give this to you. Dr. Raul Garcia. This ornament was gifted to Tyler when his grandparents passed, that he loved. How perfect for you. As a remembrance of Tyler, please accept this gift, one of his beloved Christmas ornaments that meant the world to him. He will insist you keep this note inside the box and carefully unpack and repack it each year. Neatly tuck this note inside the box as your gentle reminder each year at Christmas. Love, Tyler John Huntsman, aka T-Man. And I hope when you're elected U.S. Senator that you will keep this ornament on your desk and fight hard for us. I do have one question though. So, we do know who sold Tyler the drugs that were laced with fentanyl that caused his death. We reported it to the Bonnie Lake Police that was turned over to a detective. He talked to Tyler's girlfriend one time. She has documented information of the people that sold it to him, that admitted to him. And you know how much has been done since that phone call? Nothing. So I know that one of your goals is to have the dealers be charged with manslaughter, and I just hope and pray someday they will.
Dave.
I watched a program the other day on YouTube YouTube, I think it was, about the president of El Salvador that has rounded up all these gang members. I mean, thousands of them. Murderers, drug dealers, rapists, and put them in, I don't know if you've seen that information, and they have tattoos all over them, you know, they're gang related, and they mix them with the opposite gangs, so they just go after each other. But we need to have harsh penalties for this stuff. Otherwise, it just keeps going on, because these gang members, they're stealing, they're killing, they're raping, they're doing all this stuff, and what happens is these prosecuting attorneys in the cities are either, you know, put in power by George Soros and his groups, and they're not punishing them, they're letting them off. So.
Well, I think this is why we want to do this federally, because then you will have the power behind the U.S. Attorney's Office in each state to carry this out, and it'll give more power to the states, right? One thing that you may not know about the president of El Salvador was that when he ran, both parties did not let him be a part of debates, be a part of TV ads, because both parties in that country had the control of the left and right and had the money. And he ran only on social media. And his message was, don't leave me alone doing this. And he won the election overwhelmingly, down the middle. So he came in and he has done what he said he would do.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of respect for him, and one day hopefully I meet him, but read a lot about the things that he has done. Yes.
We're back here.
Yes, so back to what Art said, what can we do, or how will you accomplish, how will you stop the flow, and what can we do to stop the flow of fentanyl? Because it's truly the supply that we have to stop if we're going to stop the den.
Right, and that's why I said we have to do all punishment on the supply, right? From the dealers, and we could sit at the table and decide whether, you know, the guy dealing to save his day is the same as someone that's bringing in a large shipment into our cities to poison our cities, right? And we could sit and decide that, but we need to eliminate the supply from the very first place where it is made to the dealer on the street.
China is where all the chemicals is coming from to make fentanyl. So, because you can produce it over there legally, any kind of chemical you want. There's no regulations at all. The government doesn't care. So that's the problem. And then it gets shipped to Mexico, and they whip up batches.
Well, we talked about earlier that if there has to be sanctions, there will be sanctions. I mean, we need to get rid of the supply regardless of where it comes from the moment that it gets made to the dealer in the street.
And I know Andrea Hart had something to share.
Yeah, I mean, I could say a million things here. I just wanted to thank you guys all for coming together. This is the most incredible program I've ever laid my eyes on, so thank you, Art and Andy, and everybody being vulnerable today. I guess, you know, I think it would be great for anybody that's running to learn from recovery coaches who know the different stages of change. That was something, Art, you and I talked about. You can never change from pre-contemplative to contemplative to without consequence. It's a this or that. And I think as a surgeon, you know, in science, yes, but behavioral science around, no one can get to that stage of change to be like, I have consequence. And I think that's a good part of our messaging as parents, as officials, as leaders, that it doesn't have to be incarceration forever. It just means arrest, stop now. I'm working with the police department, you know, who talk about arrest means rescue to anybody in recovery. You know, I always talk about Franklin Smith. He says, I wasn't arrested, I was rescued. And to kind of pick up some of those words that I guess, you know, are palatable for people who oppose
incarceration of any kind at all. And then out of defense for my grassroots movement, We Heart Seattle, that uses field work to call out failed and also working policy, that yes, we had a very heartbreaking day to learn that 2 people we referred here, where we did everything possible over a holiday weekend to drive them to detox, to pick partners up from jail, to clothe, to feed, to phone, to call their moms who cried in my phone for an hour, contacting fathers, contacting Art and Angie, writing a check to the best program in the country, here, right here, and they still walked out. Why? Because it's not mandated.
Yeah, we didn't have any leverage.
There's no leverage. You have to have leverage. So, I'll just tie off by saying, I don't do what I do because I know you hate it, but it gives me the irrefutable fact to now run for office as a state representative to change law. Because my brothers and sisters are dying inside. No barrier, housing first failed. They're failing our families. And that's why, so it's not for not art.
Well, let me be clear. I think that when working with addiction, working with people that are in this, outreach is just a bad idea. I think, like I've told you, I think that you should be doing in-reach, meaning when somebody wants help, that it's a weird thing if you wanted help in your life and then somebody came in any aspect of your life. Just imagine that you wanted help but you didn't want to say anything, so you just waited and maybe hoped that somebody would stop by your house and say, "Could I mow your lawn?" or something, and then almost it's like, "Yeah, you can mow my lawn," and then it's like they're doing you a favor for letting you mow the lawn. And that's kind of the way that happens with addiction. When you go and you beg somebody to help them and beg them to get off the street, they almost feel as if they're doing you a big favor by coming and getting help. And that's not the right format. So I say in-reach, and what you need to do to cause in-reach is you need to have consequences out on the street. You need to have reasons why people want to leave the street. And the reason you have to do outreach is because no one wants to leave the street. See, that's a problem. You see? So now we have to go outreach and beg people, and if you go to any camp down in Seattle at any given time, you might find 15 people doing outreach, which is absolutely ridiculous. So we need to change the infrastructure. We need to change what we're doing here first, which will then have people come off the street and ask for help like it's worked for many, many years in recovery. When I want help, I have to go get it. I have to ask for it. And if I feel entitled to just sit in my tent and wait for somebody to bring me some food and some this, and then maybe it gets cold one day, so I say, "Yeah, I'll take you up on that offer. Let me go get a good night's sleep." And come on, it's ridiculous. I was listening to the guy that you had at your premiere of Billy Baldwin's movie, the guy that, big recovery guy, the big guy.
Robert Marbett?
No, the big recovery guy, the guy that was loud.
Grant Denton.
Grant Denton. And he got a YouTube beautiful thing. He said he used to live in a tent down in, I think it was San Francisco or LA. He lived in a tent, and they looked over and they could see the church that was going to feed them. And eventually he told everybody in the camp, "Let's stop walking over there." He said they'll bring it.
Yep.
He said, so we just in the camp, we just stayed in our tents and we waited and we looked and we waited for the food and we just had to stop walking over there, and eventually they came and fed us. And that's what's going on.
Yeah.
You see? And I think people need to understand this. Drug addicts are smart. They're hustlers. They're smarter than you. Stop acting like they're not. Stop acting superior with your fake compassion. Stop. We're smarter than you. You come, you try to help me. If I'm getting high, I'm going to hug you, and at the same time, I'm stealing your wallet, dumbass. So let's stop. Let's stop thinking that we need to, and that's, hopefully we get people that understand this. Let's stop with the virtue signaling. Let's stop acting like we're superior. We're going to help. I always love it. "Oh, you want to help drug addicts? Yeah. Okay, bring one home." Well, no, I never have. Yeah, okay, then shut up. Shut up. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Adriana. I feel really unqualified to be here because I've never been addicted to anything, but I am a daughter of an addict my whole life. My dad, He's currently in the hospital. It's a miracle that he's alive. He almost had a fentanyl overdose a few months ago. And when the doctors and the nurses wanted to just pull the plug, me and Austin fought for him. So, it was years of prayer that I would never get a call that my dad had overdosed. And so I give God all the glory because I was on my knees praying for a lot of years. And anyways, I have a couple questions. One of them is, have you ever heard of the LA Dream Center in LA?
I have not, but I'm willing to learn about it.
So, well, it's a nonprofit that is organized to help the needs of the community. So our needs here is homelessness, addiction, trafficking, crime. So there's a lot of dream centers throughout the U.S. Me and Asa have been just really thinking about a Seattle Dream Center, and there's actually a lot of organizations and churches that want to partner with building something like that here, because they have a 99% success rate because they have a holistic approach. So instead of going straight to jail for any crime that you're committing, you serve community hours at the Dream Center, and they help you for a year serve out your sentence, but instead of being, incarcerated. I'm not against incarceration at all, but I know that there's many different solutions from hearing everyone here. There's not just one solution, obviously. This is another option of funding a Seattle Dream Center and tending to the needs of the community. And also, I think that one of the approaches that we can take is not just incarcerating the suppliers, but from hearing Becky's story, the detective and the police haven't done anything as far as the dealer who had given drugs. And so I think that it's not just the addicts that need to be held accountable, but the police, because I'm all for police doing their job, but the police, the laws need to be changed, because if addicts are on the streets and you can clearly see that they are doing drugs, they're probably in possession of it, and the police aren't doing anything about it. They're not arresting them. In fact, some of them are just,
Enabling.
crooked. I couldn't think of another word. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of another word. And so the police are not being held accountable for their actions as well. And so if it's illegal to be in possession of drugs, but then they're seeing it happen and they're not doing anything about it because they're like, well, that's just one less drug addict that I have to deal with. I see that as a really big problem, that laws need to be changed as well. And accountability on all parts. So a Seattle Dream Center, repercussions for police not following certain protocols. I don't have all the answers, but I think that it sounds like there's a common theme of laws need to be added or changed, especially in law enforcement, and we need to go after them. When I'm in my neighborhood, I live in a very, very safe neighborhood. I see police all the time. When I go into neighborhoods that are more dangerous, I don't see a police officer to be found. I think at this point they're done and they don't care. They're not being held responsibility, or they're not being held responsible. They're just okay. If they're gonna pass away from drugs, then they are. And I think that could also be a solution, because my dad, my whole life, has gone to jail, prison, a million rehabs since I was 4 years old, and I'm now almost 26. The rehabs, going to jail and prison, none of that, has kept him from going back to doing drugs, obviously. I think if anything, I wanna help. I wanna be a solution, help with a solution. So Seattle Treatment Center, we could look into that, see how we can build that here, especially because there's so many buildings in Seattle that aren't even being used, and holding law enforcement accountable as well.
Okay, thank you.
You are qualified to be here.
I was just going to say that. Of course, you're qualified to be here. Partnerships work, especially with people that want the same cause. I'll give you an example. During COVID, they came to me and they asked me, why did the Hispanic population, why were they affected more by COVID? Right? And my answer was, well, we're multi-generational, and if we're not living together, no one's going to tell me not to go see Abuela on Sunday, right? So we're going to go regardless. And a lot of us were essential workers. We were out there, right? So I said, okay, well, how do we resolve it? And that's where education came in. I said, well, let's educate people about it, right? And it started with 4 of us, and the partnership grew to 45 of us. It was called Partnership for Food Security, you know, to protect the food supply of the state. And it grew to universities, to the Catholic Church got involved, you know, big corporations got involved. So I think your idea of creating this here is fantastic. And I think that people will join. And whatever I could support you with, I will, certainly. When it comes to law enforcement, most law enforcement people that I have talked to want to enforce laws.
Yep.
Okay, and they feel handcuffed at times.
By the judicial system?
By the mayor, by the voters.
Yeah. Yes. So I think that we need to empower the law enforcement to carry out the laws that we have in the state of Washington. You know, there's a lot of felonies in drugs here in the state of Washington that are not being carried out, right? Are not being prosecuted. One of these bills went to the legislature to increase prosecutors for the state, and they killed it. They said, no, we don't need more prosecutors.
We also have Mayor Harold doing something right now, though, right? I mean, Mayor Harold is down in Seattle making change, and they did just put you know, what they're having. They did put arrest for possession, and they did put minor arresting for misdemeanors. But what happened was they can't take them to King County Jail. So they can arrest for misdemeanors, but King County Jail won't take them. They won't prosecute them. So the cops, for a long time, didn't have nothing to do because they would arrest somebody and then they'd be out on the street about 5 minutes later. So now what they've done is they had to actually take Seattle and they have to take people to different jails in different places. So they have to drive them, right? So Mayor Harold is there doing some stuff right now that is pretty good, you know, on law enforcement.
Yeah, no, and I think Ann Davison as well has pushed a great agenda in Seattle to prosecute small crime. I think that Chief Diaz, I have talked to him. He's told me the mayor has given us more power than ever to accomplish these things. So I think that there's steps in the right direction. I think that the third wing of our enforcement with Amy Smith in Seattle is going to be huge for the future, right? And it's making a difference right now. So we are taking steps. We just need to take them faster because the problem is getting bigger than the steps we're taking, right? And as they said it at the downtown of city address, Seattle could be a destination city or a fentanyl city. It's our choice. And by 2026, I said this, and I want to be true to my word. I will do everything as your United States Senator for Seattle to be clean and most beautiful city in America again by 2026 when the World Cup gets here. It would be really nice
Oh,
to
it'll
have
be
that.
cleaned up. They cleaned it up before an event like that.
For real.
Seattle at the All-Star break, there was spots.
Chris?
Yeah, anyway. So I love the way you and your wife work across the aisle. I think that's a great model. So, you know, we're kind of talking about local solutions, but you alluded to it earlier, that I think our country is under attack by foreign nations, and that's undermining our very country. So we have outrage about 9/11. We have outrage about what's going on in the Gaza Strip on both sides. Where's the outrage about all these drugs coming into our country? So when you talk about Americans against fentanyl, the world needs to hear that. Because when you attack America, there's consequences. And I'm not seeing those consequences. I'm not saying we should go to war over this, but you mentioned sanctions. I think there's other things we can do. If you become part of the United States Senate, you are part of a very, very mighty organization. And so what can we do more globally to get that message out that we're not going to tolerate this?
Right. I agree with you 100%. Yeah. Talking about the other side of the aisle, Andrea.
I know. So when we talk about like war on drugs and convictions, and then people have a felony charge, one of the things I'd like to propose is how do you expunge somebody's background for good behavior, incentivize sobriety and self-sufficiency and independence, and say, you know, that's because you can't be an officer, you can't get a business license, there are barriers when you get that conviction. So the war on drugs people are like, don't convict my friends and my family, but how do we get around that argument on the war on drugs?
Yeah, no, and I think it certainly needs to be at the table, right? If we are to build a better world, right, we have to change. And I know that change for human beings is hard. It's for all of us, right? We all love our comfort zone. But we have to change what our mindset is about felons. If a certain individual goes through a program and now you realistically see that this person is a good citizen and is helping their community, let's not create more obstacles for them to find a job, to be able to give that back to our community for all the bad they did, right? So yeah, no, I'm in favor
I
of.
think there's like an expungement part of our conversation of just to incentivize that and be like, okay, you can be an officer, you can. So.
And this is important, you know why, Andrea? Because, you know, I had a talk with our son the other night about incentivizing rehab in jail. And he said, you know, Papa, the problem is that some people in jail have nothing else. You've taken everything away because they've done whatever. And that's where they're going to be for the rest of their lives. Or they're going to be there for 20, 25 years, 30 years. All they have is dope. So that's why they don't want anything else. They will stick to the dope in jail. Well, is there a possibility that we can change those individuals and rehab them and get them to a point where they would be model citizens? Is that something that we could talk about? Right? I'm not saying it is or it is not. But if there's going to be a reduction of those 35 years to because they're willing to go through the program and live it out and be 10 years clean and I'm willing to talk about it.
Kyle, real quick.
Two things.
Yeah.
First is a comment, and the second, I guess, is a comment, a question and form of comment.
Okay.
I know you probably can't tell, but I'm a junkie. Okay. I got dentures. First of all, I just want to say I had over 5.5 years clean. And now,
allegedly.
I'm now. It was 5.5. Now I send that about a week now, and I will say I didn't choose to love heroin. I didn't choose to crave heroin, but when I had picked up again, that was a choice. Knowing full well where I was going, what could happen, where it leads to, what the outcome will be, that's where a choice comes in. And that's where I have to be held responsible in that moment, I mean, I knew full well, I had 5.5 years, I know where this could go. So I guess the other part is, so I worked for Art for over 4 years, allegedly. Over 4 years, doing this. And one of the biggest problems that we have, or that one of the biggest problems that occurs because of drug use, is this permanent psychosis of these clients. There's one example. We had one client, absolutely normal, can comprehend normal situations, normal problems, can fully be aware of what is real compared to what is fantasy, and he is now permanently gone. And this permanent psychosis just never came out of it. I mean, it's at a point where we had to get him in a situation where we have somebody dedicated to watching him 24/7 for the remainder of I don't know how long. The issue is we have all these clients coming in with these problems. They are gone. They are so gone. And the families are just begging us to help. And we get them here and we try to help. And without fail, they leave. Without fail, the psychosis never gets better. Sometimes meds help, sometimes they don't, sometimes they'll take them, sometimes they won't, but there's nowhere that we have that can house these clients now. It's almost like we need a permanent place that they could be at, or some kind of place that they can go, and there is a big portion of this of these clients that are homeless. This is a big portion of the homelessness that's going on right now, is this permanent, these people in permanent psychosis, that just, the mental health is so strong on their end. Just the help they need is so much, it's intense, and there's just nowhere to go with it.
Yeah, and I think that when we start talking about that issue, we all become a little sensitive because we had these mental institutions that people were put on forever, and society looked at them as something that was obviously wrong at the time. And we got rid of them all without a substitute. And that's where I think the pitfall was. Where is the substitute? What is the solution, right? For these individuals that need care, right, 24/7.
Like an Alzheimer's period.
Well, what we're dealing with on our end, Raul, is that what we deal with on our end is the standard to bear is outrageous. So when someone comes and they're clearly in a bad state, they're clearly wielding a knife, they're clearly doing some things that are dangerous, they're burning, and then the standard is, are they a danger to themselves or others? Well, at that standard, it's always too late. When you've figured out that they're a danger to themselves or others, it is too late, and you're done. And that's what we're dealing with, is someone who's clearly, and the standard doesn't ring true, and so and it empowers that person. When cops come and say we can't take them, we here at our program, we generally don't want to call the cops, because if we call the cops and the cops don't take the person, we're left in a bad situation. We're left with an angrier person who is going to do more damage. And so that's where it has to be a collateral issue where we can get some mechanism for family to say, please, some kind of thing. And that's what Kyle's talking about, and that's what we deal with. Here on the front lines is what we deal with. Is that standard is an outrageous standard. Well, call me back when they hurt somebody or hurt themselves. What? Quick story before we go. I had a house over in Federal Way, and it was surrounded by SWAT, and we got a guy inside, and he's got a weapon, and I'm at the time I'm in Sacramento, and the kids are sending me pictures of the house, and it's lit up. I mean, we're talking 15 cop cars, SWAT team, everything, and they're outside, and this gentleman's inside with the gun, whatever, and all the clients that live at the house are now out of their house, and I'm in Sacramento on the phone with the police, and then the police just go, all right, we're leaving. And I go, what do you mean? And they go, well, if we go in there, we're gonna have to shoot him, and we don't want to shoot him, so we're out of here. And they left the house, and now this guy owns my house, basically. He's just there. And luckily, I had to have somebody that tactical that could go in and actually speak to this person and disarm him. But that's the kind of standard that we're dealing with. So,
I think, gentleman in the back, yeah.
Yeah, I've talked to some retired sheriffs in the area, and what they've told me from their opinions is you can get people off drugs in jail, incarcerated. They said there's no infrastructure to support them once they get out, and they said that's why you see the high reoccurrence rate. He said there's nothing there. And they view that as one of the big issues in this area is just there's no support infrastructure. And be it homeless with a drug problem or mental illness or just people out there that have a drug problem, that there's just no follow-up. And they said it doesn't matter how much money you spend, they're just going to relapse. And I have other friends that are ex-heroin dealers, and their opinion to me was that unless the person really wants it, you're wasting your money.
Yeah.
They've got to get to a point where they want it. And they said they hit that low and asked for help. And it rings true about what you're saying about it. And so how do you get people to that point where they say, raise their hand and say, I need the help. I want to have a difference in my life and a change. And then there's the sheriff saying that even after that change, there needs to be counseling and some type of support structure, and whether that's job training and help with housing and everything else, to give them a hand up to get them out of the cycle. And where do you start with that when it's not there? And I believe there is money to reallocate. I've looked at some of the budgets and some of the programs that have no reviews of their status or they're helping or not, and it's just a black money. I mean, it's just horrible. In Washington State itself, if you just look at the homeless, and 50% of the homeless have got some type of drug addiction problem. There's about 22,000 homeless in the state, and over the last decade, the state spends about $24,000 per person per year, and it's getting worse. $5.3 billion gone, and it's getting worse. And I think there's got to be a full deep dive review of the whole thing. It's just a rat's nest.
And at the end of it all, we have to change culture. So, can we believe that we could change culture? That we actually can have clean streets, and that people will believe that. That's hard, right? But we have to work at it to get there.
Part of that though is how do you provide more state-funded beds? There are so many people, especially that are on state insurances, and you hear all the time about people on state insurances that call daily and for weeks and they can't get a bed anywhere.
Yeah, and
can I address that real quick? I mean, first of all, the way that you do it is you get reimbursement rates higher. But the reason our state, and I'm going to do a conspiracy theorist here, is our state believes in MAT. Our state believes in Suboxone and methadone. So our state does not believe in treatment. So they're not having reimbursement rates. So no capitalist, no entrepreneur, nobody's going to start a treatment center where they lose money. And if you start a treatment center for $9,000 a month or $300 a day, you will lose money every day. You will not be able to treat. So nobody's opened up any state, going to take state insurance. See, state insurance is taken at dental office. It's taken everywhere else. Why isn't it taken in treatment? Because but if you get on methadone, you can get an Uber to the methadone clinic every day. And Uber. So they're paying for Ubers so people can go to the methadone clinic. You understand that? They're paying $80, $90 for a human being to get a ride anywhere they want to go, as long as they're going to methadone clinic to take that dose. Now, what's the reimbursement rate for a methadone shot, for a Suboxone visit? A lot higher than it is for a day of treatment. So until we change that, and to address the man's question a bit about here, yeah, people need to want it. But what makes somebody want it? That's the question, see? I don't know anyone that comes here wanting to be here. I don't know anyone that gets sober because they wanted to get sober. Here's what happens. Just like I don't want to stop eating chocolate cake. I don't want to stop eating cheeseburgers. I don't want to stop my stuff either. But consequences happen. And consequences make people want help. There's a real telltale sign around here. Wait till it gets cold. Guess what? What happens when it gets cold in Seattle? More people want treatment. Weird. That's what happens. More people want treatment when it gets cold. Why? Because cold is a consequence. What happens when someone goes to jail? They want treatment because guess what? Jail is a consequence. And we took away every consequence. And there's no reason, that's the reason why no one wants treatment. That's the reason why I can't go fill a van right now. Because no one wants treatment. Not because they're sitting there waiting for, what's going to happen? They're just in their tent one day? You know, I've never had one person call me from a penthouse suite in Vegas while they were doing cocaine with beautiful women and say they want treatment. You know that everybody comes to me broke? Everybody comes with their family mad at them. Everybody comes with pending charges. Everybody comes with consequences. So what we've done is we've removed consequences and then are wondering why people don't want help. Well, that's crazy. No one wants to be sober. That sucks. You see? Nobody comes here, Art, I'm here all on my own. I'm ready to do it. No, that's not the way it works. Just never has, never will. It needs to be treated with accountability and responsibility, and when it does, consequences will move someone down the stages of change until they get to a point where they go, yeah, now I'm ready for this to be done. You know, I'm not a big fan of Ben Affleck, but if you ever Google a little comment that he said about addiction that was very powerful for me, and he believed it. They asked him, Rogan, I believe, asked him, what is it that made you stop? And he said, pain. He said, when the pain of getting high started being more than the pain of being sober, I got sober. Yep. And that's what he said. And I hope you guys here would agree that and that's what gets you sober. When the pain of getting high that is greater than the pain of being sober. Pain makes me get sober. That's why I get sober. And for us to say we're going to remove all pain for drug addicts and then expect them to get sober, just like the kids today. They were in a warm bed. They had good food. They were together in a queen-size bed, cuddling up under a blanket. They were very happy. They had every need. They got a new cell phone today. They got everything. And guess what they did? Boop. Out of here. Why? Now answer that question. You see? They lack pending charges for all their crimes down there. They don't have a PO. You know? That kind of thing. We'll have you close.
Oh. Well,
I already told him, I just want one job.
Just one thing, Art. What can we do to help you get elected?
There you go.
Well, I believe that if every voter in Washington would know us, know our message, we would hands down win the election. And so we need all of you to do that for us, to help us be a team, to spread the word to everybody that doesn't know who we are, that doesn't know that this is possible. All right? Yes, as a politician, I would tell you that every dollar that you donate also helps us. But spreading the word to me in this room means more than anything in a group like this, because this is where the trouble lies, right? So please go out there and spread our message and say, you know what? There could be a government of solutions. We could do this together.
Yeah, I'd like to say one thing. We sit in this room every day about a lot of things. I like to say a lot of things, but I'm going to say one more. I sit in this room all the time, and for those of you who sit here, I say to the guys in this program, the people that are in this room, I say something very often. I say, tell me something true. I want you to tell me something true. And we kind of know when someone's telling us something true or not. And I meant to put you in the hot seat or whatever, and you know, my hope was to make it so that we could unveil that he's full of shit. You know, really. But I didn't get there this time. Okay? And I'm seeing someone that has a heart and someone that's, you know, trying to make an effort, and until I see otherwise, I'm not endorsing by any means, but I'm saying, you know, these are the type of people that it seems like we're going to need. And I want to thank you for being here, and thanking your wife. when I hear people talk and I cry, that means I know it's true. And that's how I gauge whether I'm hearing truth or not. And I heard a lot of truth tonight because I cried a lot. And I hope you all enjoyed it. And thank you for coming.
So I'll give you my website. It's garcia4wa.com. Okay, garciaforwa.com. Please tell your friends. And yes, if you want to donate, absolutely, I will accept it because that's how we spread the word to others, right? Yeah. With that money. So thank you so much.
Thank you.